Good evening, everybody. SRBT, Sabbath Rest Book Talk. Woo! Welcome to our first edition of Sabbath Rest Book Talk for what year is this? 2018. What I would like to call the Super Bowl Widow Edition. For anybody watching not live, it is the night of the Super Bowl. And it's kind of funny because I am originally from Philadelphia, and the last time the Philadelphia Eagles were in the Super Bowl, it was so long ago that I was actually living in the city. And I have never, until 2 weeks ago, I have never been in the room where a Philadelphia team was playing and saw them win. And that's not because I'm superstitious, it's because it's just statistics. Because if you watch a Philadelphia game, the chances are pretty good they're going to lose. Anyway, hopefully that's not the case tonight. We've got a friend of the Eagles here. We've got Sparkle, the plastic Christmas hawk. This is a bird who will never disappoint. So you're going to be guaranteed to have a winning thing here tonight if you're watching Sabbath Rest Book Talk. My name is Erin McCole Cupp. I'm the author of the Jane E. Friendless Orphan series. I'm also one of your hosts here for Sabbath Rest Book Talk. But missing this evening is one of our faithful hostesses, Carolyn Astfalk. She's got a little guy who's fighting his own game with the stomach flu. So we're, praying that he knocks that out of the ballpark, mixing metaphors. Anyway, so hopefully she'll be better soon. The person I can introduce is Rebecca Willen, one of our hostesses as well. She is she works with the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, way out in mighty Ann Arbor. And does she have Rebecca, do you have a pet with us this evening?
I do. Here, Finnegan, come here. Yes, we have Finnegan. Finnegan is not my cat.
And there's
my roommate's cat, but he's very friendly.
He is very sweet. I had an old brown tabby like that. Well,
he's a gorgeous baby. But I also, living in the area near Detroit, I just want to say that any pain you might have felt as a Philadelphian is probably the same 3 times for anyone who's a native of Michigan, because none of our teams win anything ever.
Gotcha. So yeah, it was kind of funny to be watching tonight, and when the opposing team came out, everyone booed. I felt kind of bad. Since I'm not really a sports person, I think I'm allowed to feel kind of bad. I'm not a sports person. Rebecca, are you a sports person?
Basketball. I grew up in Indiana. Also the Olympics.
Okay.
I'm an armchair gymnastics judge.
Okay. Gotcha. So yes, sports. But we are both booked people. And if you're watching, then you're a book person too. We've got some exciting things going on tonight for Sabbath Rest Book Talk, our first return for this year. Our topic tonight is trust. So we're talking about 3 books that deal with trust. We're also, a little bit later on in the show, going to be hosting a very special guest, Connie Rossini, who is the author of Trusting God with Saint Therese, along with a bunch of other books that are really applicable to our topic of trust and what it means to be a human who trusts or who struggles with trust, which probably falls onto us. Rebecca, can we talk about All the Light We Cannot See last, right before we bring Connie on? Because that's my favorite book that we talked about that we're talking about this month. Okay. We savor that. Okay. So let's start with Easter bunnies, Amazing Day. I realize it might seem a little premature that we're starting with the Easter bunny, considering Lent hasn't even started yet. But I do like to, whenever possible, those rare times when I am thinking ahead, maybe give our viewers some ideas of what they might want to stick in the Easter baskets. This is also a really good read for Holy Week or even through Lent. Read aloud for your little ones. Rebecca, give us some thoughts about what you thought about our adorable little Easter bunny's experience in Easter Bunny's Amazing Day.
He's very cute. I love, yes, he's adorable. I just think it's funny how he gets, ultimately the way that he ends up in the situation that he does in the last few pages is because he's so overwhelmed by so many different fears all happening at the same time that he just kind of runs to the smallest, darkest place that he can and ends up in what would apparently be a pretty hopeless position. He's stuck in a cave with a stone rolled over the front of it, and he's in the dark, and he's all by himself. And it's through that experience that he ends up experiencing the joy of the resurrection.
Right. And I think that's, I mean, I've had that happen to myself in my own spiritual life so many times that I think the place where I'm going to be able to hide from the very thing that's frightening me the most ends up being the place where I must confront that fear. I find it so interesting that even when we are fighting against trusting what is good for us, that God kind of creeps in after us. He's always such a gentleman about it. But he does kind of, like, I'm using creeper and gentleman in the same sentence, which doesn't make sense. Let me see if I can finesse this a little bit. God, even when we try to avoid our deepest fears, God keeps giving us another chance. God keeps giving us that opportunity to face it, to trust in him. He never gives up on our ability to trust in him. He never gives up on our ability to trust in what is right and good and what will ultimately make us stronger, and in the end make us less afraid. And the story of the Easter Bunny in Easter Bunny's Amazing Day is just that. It's the story of a little bunny who is afraid of everything, especially like the little part that he's afraid of horses, because it's so cute. And I just want to just show you the little picture here. Look at the little, like, they've got little lines on here of the bunny is shaking. I have a dog who shakes like that. And it's just such a cute little illustration and so touching. And you can really relate to all these little fears that this tiny little bunny has, even as an adult. And it's such a beautiful thing with the illustration. Jonathan Sunday, who he shows, you know, the process of growing for this little bunny. And I think that was really a beautiful thing about this book. Any last thoughts on Easter Bunny's Amazing Day?
Nope. Just that it's cute. And I love not just the illustrations, but like the font and the way that the words are laid out. The storytelling is great.
Yeah, I agree. I do like it. It's a very calm little book for facing fears, I think, is a nice way to say that. Let's talk next about Standing Strong. All right, I do have to say, everybody, viewers, my friends, comment live. I'm trying to get a picture of Standing Strong up here. Whoopsie. I should have had this ready ahead of time and of course didn't. Sorry. Little moment of incompetence there. Here we go. Standing Strong, which you can't.
It blinked out.
Okay, by Theresa Linden. Yeah. Anyway, Standing Strong by Theresa Linden, a West Brothers story. It's a YA novel. Theresa Linden has been kind enough to offer our viewers this evening the opportunity to win your very own copy of Standing Strong by Theresa Linden. If you have a U.S. address, you can win a signed paper copy. If you have a, what's the other kind? Oh, international address. I realize the U.S. is international, but anyway, if you have a non-U.S. mailing address, comment. Let's see, over here? I think it's over here for where we are. Comment on the side there. Like that? Yeah, like that. And you'll get you'll be entered for a chance to win. So please, viewers, comment. I realize we don't have a ton. I humbly admit that. But if you're here, hey, your chances are awesome. You're probably going to win something. So comment while we're watching, and you will be entered for a chance to win your very own copy of Standing Strong. So I've got a confession to make. I literally finished reading Standing Strong 20 minutes ago. So it's
I beat you by maybe 40.
All right, very good. I was one of the people who was hit with that stomach virus this week. So at one point I was even so dehydrated I couldn't even hold my phone up, much less my Kindle. So it was rough. But I did it was a quick read because it's really fast paced, especially towards the end. I really like how Theresa builds the action between the two. Especially between the two brothers. They're twins, but they're so different. And I have to say, as a parent of twins, I really like that because as much as I love, say, Madeline Langle, the twins, Sandy and Dennis, they're always the twins. Even in the book that's twin-centric, they're the twins. And it's kind of insulting because they're usually their own people. And they're not just these little, you know, blocks of humanity that gets squished together. It's, you know, and I really like how Theresa Linden shows that they are two completely different people with two completely different things. What we've got are, this is the third book in the series?
No idea.
Hold on. Okay, so it's Roland West, Loner is the first. That's about their younger brother. Then Life-Changing Love, which is about their friend Caitlin. Then Battle for His Soul, which is about the older twin Jarrett, who is he's badly behaved. Let's put it that way. It focuses mostly on him. And then Standing Strong. So it is the fourth book. I have not read the two books in the middle, I have to admit. That said, I do think this is one of those books where I think you probably will get a lot more out of it if you read them in order. However, I was still able to follow along and really get a lot out of the process of what these characters were going through. What we have are I got the sense that they were, I'm lording it over. Rebecca, do you want to summarize what happened in Standing Strong, since it's also fresh in your mind?
Fresh in my mind, and the first time I've read one of Theresa Linden's books. So I have no idea of any of the backstories. I have to say she did a decent job of creating a good standalone. But essentially what you have is two boys who are both hitting, what are they, 16, 17? They're seniors in high school, so 17 or so.
Yeah, they're about to start their senior, well, they do start their senior year of high school in the book.
Right. So they're at a point where they're kind of having to decide how to make their faith their own, essentially, of how realizing that they're both in their own way, kind of figuring out what they need to be doing and how they need to challenge themselves, who they want to be, and what direction they want to take their lives in. So you have the one kid who's discerning a vocation, and you have the other who's trying to deal with his badly behaved past, and kind of figure out if he can and wants to and has the pieces to put his life back together and start fresh.
Yeah, I think what I really related to the most about this book is this book sort of encapsulated what I like to call the worst period of my life, which, Rebecca, I don't know if you can relate to this, but that period of vocation discernment, maybe it's not as much of like attention for you because I was not sure. I didn't have like any clear calling to anything. I felt like if I didn't become a nun, then I was being a bad Catholic and not holding up my end of the Catholic, banner or something like that. But I really liked boys, which is why in a lot of ways I can kind of relate more to Jarrett than Keith. Keith is the twin who is discerning whether he wants to become a Franciscan friar or not, which is a huge leap because he's coming from this background where his mother was the influence for faith in his family's life, but she passed away. And when she passed away, then his dad just kind of dropped the ball and they were all sort of almost growing up in the Wild West, and not even almost, like they're really, really wealthy. They've got horses, so they go horseback riding all the time. And so it is kind of like, it's Wild West. Oh my, their last name's West. Duh. Sorry, Theresa. You probably have that like sitting right in our faces. Hey everybody, let's wave really quick hi to Monique from Catholic Reads. She's here visiting us. Anyway. So yeah, West brother. Anyway, so I think like what I liked that Carolyn is actually, I'm sorry, Carolyn's not here to talk about this with us tonight, but sick kids come first. What I really, really like about Standing Strong is that it deals with trust without really ever coming out and like blaring this trumpet, you must trust God. It's, she shows this blooming relationship between these teens with their issues and God, and how it really is a step by step, and you don't just suddenly start, you usually don't just suddenly start trusting God. It's this slow practice thing.
Yeah.
All right, you elaborate now.
Say what?
You elaborate now. Your turn. I blab too much.
No, I just think it's interesting how, to me, because I'm still kind of in that stage where I'm not necessarily vocation discernment, but there's a point in time, and I hit this point right about senior year of high school, the same point where these boys are, of realizing, how do I want to, basically, am I going to choose to live as an adult in my faith? Am I going to make my faith my own? And am I going to let it influence what I do? And for me, that actually meant giving up a career as a professional musician and becoming a lit major, which, for the record, I'm incredibly happy that I did that. But
I am too. But Rebecca edits for me, so I'm kind of happy that she's not a professional musician. But anyway, go ahead.
Let's just not mention the project that I still have to get back to. But for me, like, I went through a week of summer camp at a Catholic college, basically going through this like intense existential crisis of like, what am I going to do with my life? It was not fun. I don't think anyone around me appreciated the fact that I was going through this existential crisis. But anyway, so this is still fairly fresh for me. So I can really, like, I can appreciate the struggle that the boys are going through, and the fact that they're both, like, they keep trying. Like, they have different challenges to deal with. Very, very different challenges. And what they have to learn is not just trusting God, but also, I think, not trusting the people around them, but giving the people around them the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways. I think they have to learn to trust.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because that's something that Roland West in the first book had to deal with a lot too. Their younger brother was not. It was that issue of giving people the benefit of the doubt and not always assuming that everybody's out to get you. I mean, that's kind of sounds sort of harsh, but that is something that I know. I tend to be, that kind of defensive and wanting to protect myself and assuming the worst of everybody. But then once other people assume the worst of me, I get super offended. So yeah, it's sort of hypocritical.
Well, and the thing that Jarrett and Keith both have to deal with too is actually trusting themselves as well. Jarrett goes through this whole conflict of, am I even capable of living a different life? Can I actually make the choices that are different than what I've made in the past? And half of that is trusting God. But
yeah, because I mean,
he reached into his own strength he does have.
Right. It's that is the thing. And you do kind of see throughout that he, regularly is just like, look, I'm relying on my own strength. I could do this. I could do this. I could do this. And so often that's what causes us to fall, is trying to rely on our own strength and not, not asking for that supernatural help. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there is that, that hint, but it's a believable hint. There's no like, clouds opening up and angels coming down on sunbeams, but there is this towards the end, this little nudge that, I'm not in charge, that Jarrett goes through, that I found really, really moving. And
that's what my mother calls it. That's my mother calls it come to Jesus moment.
A what?
Come to Jesus moment.
A come to Jesus moment. I thought you could have said a come to cheese ball. Come to Jesus moment makes much more sense.
I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, but we're not thinking about snacks right now.
Right. Out here would be a come to ring bologna ball. Do they have ring bologna in Michigan?
I don't know.
Okay, I had never heard of it until my Pennsylvania Dutch husband brought it into my life, and I
have to admit, that's not something I've ever. You did say something about.
You know what? Hey, anybody who comes to Catholic Marketing Network in Lancaster this summer, I'll buy us a platter of ring bologna, and you can taste it for yourself and decide thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm generally a thumbs up kind of person, but I also like really unhealthy food. So,
is there going to be tomato pie involved this year?
Oh, I might be able to swing some tomato pie over. Yes. It's sort of actually, you know what? Barb Shishkevich offered, and Barb, if you're watching, hopefully you can keep your promise to swing by a bakery and pick some up, because she's actually going to pass. Well, she's sort of passing one on the way. Anyway, we're getting off topic. So let's talk some more books. Any last thoughts about the West brothers and Standing Strong?
Just a good solid YA read as far as giving to teens for trust or several other things.
Yeah, and also one more thought on just you saying that it's a good solid YA read. It is, and I like that it's from a male perspective. because so much of the YA, it's from a male perspective, but it's dealing with real thoughts of, you know, really maturing, whereas so often YA reads, I like, I do read. No, they just don't, well, I do see them maturing, but like I started recently reading, oh golly, I can't remember the name of the author who wrote Project 1065 and Code of Honor. I have him on my Instagram, pictures of his books on my Instagram account. It's really action packed and, you know, lots of violence, and I mean, it's purposeful violence. It's not just glorified violence, but this didn't have that. Standing Strong did not have that. It had guys going through real struggles to be real men, not just to be ham-fisted, you know, duke it out kind of people. It had young men trying to grow to be actual men. So I thought that was a really strong point in Standing Strong. So let's go from YA to our delicious grown-up read, All the Light We Cannot See. Rebecca, do you have a copy of that to show our readers?
And I just want to point out that
okay.
Every time I recommend a book to Erin that she hasn't read before, she loves it.
Let's just say that.
I think I have credibility.
Yeah, it was a good call. I've actually, it's funny because my my bestie Nada, hi Nada, if you're watching, had recommended this to me a couple years ago, I think, and it's the kind of thing that unless I'm reading it for my kids or for like book reviews or for Sabbath Rest Book Talk, it generally doesn't get onto my desk. So once Rebecca, so I had two people recommend this to me. Oh my goodness, the language in this. It's been a long time, maybe a year, where I've read the language that I just kind of wanted to linger in the beauty of the metaphors. I want to say the last book that just had me lingering over each sentence was Brideshead Revisited, which we're doing this August, by the way, for anybody. We're doing Even Law. Yay, I'm so excited. But that said, I think this might have even been more delicious, which is strange to talk about. Delicious language over so much atrocity. Like, how does a writer even do that? It's amazing. So, Rebecca, can you maybe give us a nutshell of All the Light We Cannot See?
Sure. So it basically follows two parallel stories, and there's some added vignettes that are thrown in, but it's basically the story of two people. One is a young blind French girl who lives with her father in Paris. He's the lockkeeper at a museum, locksmith at a museum. And her story of going through learning to deal with her blindness initially, which just sets up the fact that she goes with her father, ends up on the island of St. Malo. I'm pronouncing that horribly wrong. Don't correct my French pronunciation.
Actually, I think you're pretty close. Saint Malo, I believe, is how you would say it.
That's nice. I Americanize things. And her story of getting to know her great uncle and what he does with his radio set. And then you have Werner, who's a German boy who's got a mind for engineering and radios and all sorts of things. And his story as he ends up with the Hitler Youth and then in time working with the army, and his ultimate need for redemption, because as he absorbs more and more of the atrocities around him, he becomes numbed to them, and ultimately he has to decide how is he going to become one of the people around him, or is he going to do what's right and good? And then in the end, the two meet, and it's really beautiful how they end up interacting.
And what I thought was so significant about the title, All the Light We Cannot See, Werner, speaking of pronunciation, the German boy character, he becomes interested in radio because he's a radio technician, basically triangulating where resistance radio stations are during the war. And he's part of a team that goes out and eliminates those. I'm sorry, he murders them. I'm just going to be honest. And what is beautiful, the thing that's the saving grace, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything big there because it happens pretty early on in the book, is he finds this radio coil that's been thrown in the trash, works with it, and gets to tune into this French language broadcast for children, talking about the beauty of the earth. And that gets him interested in radio. Well, the magical thing is, and I am going to use the word magical, not in the, witchcraft sense, but in the transcendent sense, that happens is that the man who was broadcasting that stuff out into the ether just for the sake of beauty and joy and hope was the French girl's uncle, Etienne. So when Werner gets to the town of Saint-Malo, and the thing that, and he's in a position that he should be trying to kill someone. And the question is, what does he choose? Does he choose that beauty and hope that he had as a child? Or does he choose what's been drummed into him more recently, and that is so much more deadly and so much uglier? And go ahead, you go.
I was going to say, I think the fascinating thing about, because I selected this book for the theme of trust, and I started reading it and realized I had no idea why I had chosen it for that particular theme. I'm not really sure why I decided to suggest it for trust initially, and then as I was reading it and thinking about it, it's not like Standing Strong, where it's very clear challenges of learning to trust in God. Here we've got more of a level of human trust and also providence, of kind of trusting that there is good, that there is something beyond the horrors of war around each of the characters, that there is something good to hold on to, and that there is a guiding light, for lack of a better word, that stands above and beyond what they're dealing with.
Yeah, that trust in what you cannot see. I mean, it's just right there, smack dab in the middle of the title, All the Light We Cannot See. It's also a reference to all of the light on the radio spectrum that takes precedence throughout, that's part of the plot.
Right.
And that what ties people together in so many mysterious ways. But also the trust that Marie-Laure, the girl who is the blind teenager in the book, that she has to have trust in her father, that she has to have trust in her uncle, that she has to have trust in her own sensory experiences to get her around in this horrible, harsh world when she cannot see anything. I'm just going to pause really quickly because we're coming to the end, and I've got to invite Connie Rossini to come on and talk to us. So I just sent her the invite. Hopefully she'll be joining us in just a moment. But we'll wrap up our talk about All the Light We Cannot See while we wait for her. It's a beautiful testament to the book is a beautiful testament to the power of us, still holding on to something beautiful, even in the midst of what is dreadful and ugly and nasty.
And ultimately, ultimately what redeems Werner, what gives Werner the opportunity to redeem himself, and what gives Marie-Laure safety, what really preserves her, is their trust in each other. Werner trusts that there's something good coming out of this radio station, and he's drawn to that. And she is able ultimately to trust him to keep her safe when they do finally meet. Right.
And she has to that's the thing, she has to trust. Is this, funny, I never thought of this. She has to trust, is this German soldier going to help her or not?
Right.
Can she see that she can hear that he's German, because he speaks, okay, I'm not really spoiling anything big there. He speaks to her in French, but he's got an accent. So and there's also some really powerful stuff at the end. I don't want to spoil anything because Barb has asked us not to give too much in the way of spoilers because she knew she wouldn't be able to get it done before tonight. Right. At the end, there's more trust that has to be built up between the two warring sides, between the French and the Germans. And it's shown on a personal level. It's not this, post-war reporting. It's done in relationships between characters. And I can't say any more than that because I don't want to give it away.
Yeah. But it is interesting, and the way that it's ended. I mean, it's just a very interesting ending, because one of the just beauties of this book is the way that he does weave through all of these strands of people and experiences, and that ultimately, in almost a very Dickensian way, they're all tied up together at the end in a nice little bow. It might be a little jagged around the edges, but it's a nice little bow.
You know, I'm not sure. It's a Dickensian bow, though, with that little bit of bitterness.
True.
You know what I mean?
I'm more just thinking like all the different like characters and storylines coming together.
Yes, there is the big convergence of all these different people and their lives and so on that we do experience. You know what?
It's not really a
yeah.
We're having trouble with the text.
Yeah, we're having trouble getting Connie on.
Here.
Let me try again. Let's see. There we go. Sorry for the little bit of dullness there. Yeah, awkward silence, right? Whoopsie, sorry.
I can make awkward turtles over here.
Sure. Well, anyway, actually, while in all seriousness, while we wait for Connie to hopefully join us, sorry we're running late, fellow Super Bowl widows, but hopefully that's not taking too much of your time. If you can't watch it now, you can always just catch it on a replay later on. It's always going to be on the Sabbath Rest Book Talk YouTube channel. Meanwhile, what we can do is we can pick a winner for Theresa Linden's book. So let's see. We have 1, 2. You know, I think, Carolyn, I already know you've got a copy. So, Monique Ocampo, you are the winner of the book. Congrats, Monique. And I know you have a U.S. address, so I will put, and I also have your email address, so that's convenient. I will go ahead and put you in the book. I'll put you in the, I'll send you an email so everybody can clap. And guess who's here? It's Connie. Hey, welcome, Connie. Welcome to Sabbath Rest Book Talk. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you. Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Well, with tonight's focus being trust, we wanted to invite Connie to join our conversation, especially because of her book, Trusting God with Saint Therese, with Saint Therese. Oh my goodness. I know how to say her name. So, Connie, can you tell us a little bit about that book and how your understanding of the life of Therese Martin is an example of how healthy trust is good for us?
Yes, thank you. What I did was I took episodes from the life of Saint Therese and I told them in story form. I tried to look at all the different episodes in her life where she was dealing with a different challenge to trust. And then I looked for something in my own life where I had a similar challenge and wrote some memoir as well. So Saint Therese, really, the little way of spiritual childhood it exists because she had so many challenges to trust in her life. And although she had really high ideals and always wanted to be a saint, she knew that naturally she was really weak. And so all she could do if she wanted to become a saint was completely trust in God to make her one. And so actually her weaknesses allowed her to have a level of trust that someone who maybe is naturally stronger or more talented would have had a more difficult time doing.
That's a really nice way of looking at it. And I saw that a lot through your book too, especially through your stories of your own experiences through tragedy in your life. So, but I do want to fast forward a little bit to some of your even more recent work. You've written a great deal about practices that might undermine our trust in what is true spiritual good. Can you talk to us a little bit about your writings where you work on contrasting what's called centering prayer with what is Christian contemplative prayer?
Yes, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about putting that together with trust before, but contemplative prayer in the Catholic tradition is a prayer that God gives to us after we've been practicing faithfulness to daily mental prayer for a long time. And we've kind of gotten to the end of where we can grow in our spiritual life with common actual grace. We've gotten rid of habitual sin. We're working on attachments to things other than God. And we've kind of gotten all the fruit out of meditating on the scriptures that we can get. And so God gives us an infusion of his own life and draws us into a deeper union with himself, and that is contemplation. It's a communion with God that's beyond words and sometimes even beyond what we can experience on the sense level. In contrast to that, centering prayer really comes from an Eastern religion way of looking at meditation and contemplation, where the person doing the centering prayer is trying to make himself into a contemplative through making his mind, what we usually say, making the mind blank, although centering prayer practitioners don't like that phraseology. But you try not to think about anything, you try not to feel anything, and with just a big blank there and an altered state of consciousness, they see that as contemplation. So as far as trust is concerned, we need to be really patient in our spiritual lives and realize if we haven't gotten to that point, it's not because God's not trustworthy, but probably we have some more work to do, some things that we're still holding back from God. And when we give 100%, Theresa of Avila does teach that that God will be faithful in giving this gift to us.
Okay, would you say from your work contrasting Christian contemplation with centering prayer, would you say that centering prayer is more a case of blind trust, where contemplative prayer is a deliberate trust in God? Because that's kind of what it sounds like to me. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. I mean, centering prayer is in some ways a lot like the heresy of quietism, which said that basically in our spiritual lives, we need to be 100% passive, do nothing, and let God do everything. So there, in some sense, there is that in centering prayer, because in the prayer time, you just sit there and don't think, don't talk to God, don't relate to him, don't listen to any inspirations that you have. So in actual contemplation, we have to do a lot of work before we get to that point, but then we have to know when to let go and to say, God is in control of my spiritual life and not me. And a lot of times people's first experience of contemplative prayer is a very dry prayer. God starts to take away all the feelings that maybe you've relied on to make you faithful in prayer. But we have to trust that he's actually there, even though it feels like it's empty, and he's actually doing some deeper work.
Yeah, it's that trust that what is just because we can't feel it doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
That's really important in a mature prayer or a maturing prayer life. We're always going to be kids compared to God, but as we mature in our prayer life, that really is a big step to take, I think. At least I found it so in my prayer life.
Yes.
We are running out of time, so I'm going to skip ahead to the very last big question. Where can our viewers find more about you and your work, Connie?
Well, I blog at contemplativehomeschool.com. Where I hang out the most right now online is in my Facebook group, which is Authentic Contemplative Prayer. So we there discuss these issues about true contemplation all the time. And then I have, a regular Facebook page as well.
All right, great. So lots of stuff to find, which is excellent. I know just one quick question here about your work on temperament. Can you summarize really, really quickly what your experience on temperament, your writings on temperament, especially for parents?
Yes, I am working on a series of 4 books, one for each of the 4 temperaments for Catholic parents, to learn how they can encourage their children in their temperamental strengths and help them overcome their temperamental weaknesses so that they can become the people that God wants them to be. 2 books done so far. I'm working on the 3rd.
All right, excellent. Looking forward to reading those.
As a cleric,
thank you for coming.
This.
As what? As a cleric?
As a cleric, I appreciate it. I said at one point. So
I've been saying choleric this whole time. Am I saying it wrong?
Choleric. I've heard both.
I say choleric also.
Okay.
With me, Erin.
Well, I'm siding with the expert here, Rebecca.
Yeah. In Catholic circles, we're a minority.
Okay. Well, great. Connie, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Connie did offer us a copy of Trusting God with St. Therese, a paperback to a U.S. mailing address. Correct, Connie?
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
so.
And according to random.org, our second commenter is the winner. So, Carolyn, that's you. I will be in touch with you, Carolyn, and send you both an email about getting that copy out. Congratulations! It's a great book. I have a few. Carolyn, I know you. I think you're going to enjoy it. Let's all pray that everybody who has the stomach bug and such gets better soon, and all those good things. And hope to see you all next month for March, same day of the month. Funny enough, only no Super Bowl. We'll be talking about the subject of heroism, where we'll be talking about Full Cycle by Christopher Blunt. He's our indie read for the month, and he's got a giveaway of his book coming on with him. We're also going to be talking about A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. That movie is coming out next month, so let's talk about it before we see the movie. And I don't know, I'm not a gambling person, but maybe we want to lay odds about if the book is what's the word? Oh, is the movie a trash of the book? I'm curious. I don't know. We'll see. My hopes aren't high. How are you ladies feeling about that?
Yeah, no. The book's
Hope's
always
not
better.
high.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also The Castle in the Attic by Elizabeth Winthrop. So hopefully we'll see you next month. Thanks everybody for taking the time out to visit us, and God bless. Potato chip. Sparkle says goodbye. SRBT, Sabbath Rest Book Talk. Yay. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.